So it should, there we go. I'm going to record the meeting just in case it's valuable in the future. I don't know. But tonight, yourself at a parent academy at IVA. And if this is your first one at IVA, then I just want to sort of clarify that it's a different sort of event because we are pursuing big questions. And our whole goal in being together is that we would try to seek understanding by practicing self-awareness. So this is sort of an engaging sort of workshop. It might help you to have a note paper and a pen to journal out your thoughts, because we're going to be giving you content and then asking you to think about it and using the chat really to respond. So my name's Jackie Bryant. I am the principal at IVA. Let me hit the next slide and hand it over to Rachel Gordon.
Hello, I'm Rachel Gordon, the Instruction and Intervention Coordinator, and I'm excited to do this. I really love being able to talk about this and be with the parents, so I'm excited about tonight.
And when we create parent academies, we create them based on our mission and vision. And something that I love about the mission and vision is that it's not just good for kids, it's also good for us as adults. And in fact, what adult learning theory says, at least for educators, is that if you are going to try to practice something with your kids, you need to practice it with yourself first. And so that's what we're doing tonight. I hope that you're here to be able to, in this hopefully thoughtful and challenging, supportive environment that we want to set up as a school, not just for our students, but our families. But the whole point of us doing this is so that we could have our kids engage the world with curiosity and thoughtfulness, know themselves and live well. But we also know that to offer that to them means we have to offer it to ourselves first. So I do hope that tonight we get a moment of curiosity or thoughtfulness, a moment of reflection. Go ahead, Rachel.
Well, I was just going to start with this question, is that, and I think this is a good example of ways that we try to talk to our students, is to help them build their self-awareness. We're a month into school and we're getting pretty deep into October. And I have just noticed is that October is a particularly hard month. And I'm going to go out and say October is the hardest month, I think, of the whole school year. And so that means right now, I'm imagining that there's a lot on everybody's plate and there's just like a lot of other things to be thinking about. And it is hard to be personally present in the learning. So if you could just think for a moment about what do you feel like you need to just kind of put aside, like mentally or physically, to really try to listen and learn. We got you for about like 40 minutes. And so if you could just be aware of whatever it is and maybe make like a very intentional decision to put it to the side so that you can learn and listen with us. I'm actually kind of curious if anybody wants to share in the chat, like, this is what I'm going to put to the side for a moment. And we would love to hear from you. I know that I'm thinking about, like, I just don't even know what's going to happen on the other side of the door of my house. I'm just going to try to be present with you. And yeah, good. I'm seeing some people writing some things in the chat. Dinner, yeah. Own work, teaching, just like things that you have to get done, just focusing on your child. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. You can go to the next slide, Jackie.
Right. So before, to frame the time that we have together, we want to remember and be grateful for the kids that we have in our lives right now. So if you would, in the chat or just on your own piece of paper or just with the people that are in your home, could you share one thing that you love about your child at this age? And then we'll read a couple of those. So Dorothy said his witty sense of humor. And I said, I love how quirky my kid is trying to figure himself out, the awkwardness with like physical growth, but then the awkwardness with just like social growth. They're able to talk about adult topics, so much fun. Reading books like crazy. Let's see, I just lost that. Love to see curiosity blooming. We love her enthusiasm. Rachel, do you want to read a couple?
All my hopes, teaching of independence being applied to real life. I said, I love when she gets so focused on something, what she can do. Watching his personality develop, his communication skills.
It is a huge time in kids' lives. And although the first response that most of the public give to me when they find out I work in a middle school is like, oh, I'm so sorry. I want to explain, no, this is passion. Ooh, that's my dog. This is Rachel. This is an important time in kids' lives, and it's kind of an honor to be here. And there's an honesty that we get to have. So the big question for tonight really is like, what is your parent role in middle school? I mean, we can talk academics or social emotional or whatever, but your kid's a middle schooler, and that's different than elementary school, different than high school. What is your parent role? And you can share that on, on your own notes or in your own head, or in the chat, a word or phrase. Or if you can think of an analogy or simile or metaphor, like parenting in middle school is like, you can share that also. So I'm going to give a moment for us to think of that. Thank you for the examples that few of you have shared so far. Dorothy said parent by example, and willing to step back and let him do it and fail sometimes. Patrick and Becky, that's like better well said than I did, which was like, try not to control them so much. It is like step back and let them fail. And it's so scary, challenging, letting go, big reminder that they're not here for us. We're here for them. To trust them and be an example, nurturer, guide, supporter, listener, role model, support, allowing mistakes, supporting fixes, supporting the child and being open-minded, finding the balance between giving enough support and giving enough independence. I was listening to a podcast, and it was a British podcast. So it was, they get snow. We don't in Long Beach as much, but they were talking about how, the error of this age is if a parent would come and snow plow everything in front of them so that they don't have to address any struggles. You just clear the path for the child. And then it said, at some point, that snow plow is going to be gone. And will they be prepared to deal with the snow? So I think it's what you all have described. It's to let her venture out, make mistakes, and learn from them. That's so hard. Okay.
If you were coming to the, I feel like this should be a little disclaimer. If you were coming to this Parent Academy, hoping to get like some really practical, tips on how to raise a middle schooler. I don't mean to laugh.
But having figured it all out.
Yes. I just want to warn you, but maybe also relieve you, because we really want to more give you the context, give you the big picture. This is really about the big picture of like, who are our middle schoolers, and also who are we, because we bring so much into the relationship, whether we mean to, or, how we respond to our middle schoolers. I know as teachers, and also, Miss Bryan and I are both middle school parents with kids at IVA. So we are very aware of the struggle of raising a middle schooler and also just interacting with our middle schoolers. So today's Parent Academy is just a reminder of what they're going through, and also an opportunity for us to to practice our own self-awareness and reflect on our interactions with our middle schoolers, which it's not supposed to be in any way shaming, but also hopefully liberating in moving forward. So this is what we're planning on talking about.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, this quote that I love so much, we talked about at orientation, if you were there, and it's from a podcast, so I've taken their tagline, but the best predictor of a child's well-being is a parent's self-understanding. I think that as teachers also, we rely on that, because we have to continually see the big picture in all of the struggle and the difficulty and the figuring it out, trying to understand them and make adjustments. So we look for the big picture. So some of these slides tonight were taken from advisory sessions that we had. We had 5 full school advisory sessions, and the next 2 slides are from one session when we talked about why is middle school so hard. This is the question we posed to kids, and then we had them discuss these slides. I'm going to read this one. I'll have Miss Gordon read the next one. But what we find very helpful is if there's something that's sticking out to you, if you can write down a word or a phrase from it, or even a sentence, like if you can, or screenshot it, because we're all modern. That just helps solidify our thinking. We do this with students so that it's not like the content that they get just floats around in outer space, that they have nailed something down that's important to them, and then they can talk about it. Sentence, phrase, or word is the option for you. Okay, why is middle school so hard? This is an article in Psychology Today. And it says, in adolescence, there is a need to form a second social family outside of home, of friends who are all becoming different, the same way you are, the same way they are, for companionship and understanding. But peer group membership does not come free of charge. To belong, one has to conform. Among the unstated but well understood requirements are: to be one of us, you have to be like us, believe like us, behave like us, go along with us, look like us best, and not do better than us. I'm going to go to the next slide, but if there is a sentence or, thank you, Christina, for just throwing in, this is painful to read.
I see conform. I'm wondering if anyone else had any sentence, phrase, or word that stood out.
Yeah.
Oh, so painful.
It's painful.
Not do better than us. Yeah, the not do better than us, companionship and understanding.
Yeah. And this is and this is like the truth of what they're going through and what makes it hard to just only rely on their parents. Do you want to read this one?
Yes. Fitting in is
Can I pause for a second? Dorothea asked a question. I'm confused as to where you're going with this. Yeah, right. We're going somewhere, but part of this is you as parents have a role in the middle school lives of your kids, and to understand what their lives are like psychologically can help you sort of find a place to know how to be supportive to them. So that's the point. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Gordon.
Fitting in is complicated, and as socially insecure young people strive for standing and definition, the incidence of 5 social cruelty behaviors become more common: teasing, exclusion, bullying, rumoring, and ganging up. Often targeted for this mistreatment are young people who are perceived as different from the desirable social norm, who absorb the insecurities of their attackers. Adolescence increases the incidence of social meanness as young people strive for social membership and standing. Is there right now, if there's anything that's standing out to you as a sentence, phrase, or word? And also in the chat, I'm curious if there's like any connection to any of this. Like if there's anything that feels connecting in like understanding when we talk about middle school being a hard time, is there anything that you feel like you connected to?
There's one thing that I think of that, I mean, we are so lucky to have intentional adults in the school all on the same page, a small school. And yet it does not mean that there's not going to be conflict, because that's what's happening psychologically at this age. It is conflict. And yet to know this can empower us as adults to set up an environment that is most supportive. Okay, I'm going to move us along. Thank you for sharing things in the chat. That's really nice. So there's another article that we read part of with students. I don't remember if it was in the same session or in a different session, but it talked about how you can handle struggle by building a life compass, by building like a grounding or a foundation. And again, a sentence, phrase, word could be, there's going to be a lot of content on these slides, and we want you to process it and in a short amount of time. So write down anything, share anything in the chat that's standing out to you. And you know what, I have it on I'm gonna put it in the chat. This is the article. It's from an independent school in Boston that we've had some contact with because they develop intellectual character like our school does. And I'll read this first one. It's called What It Means to Build a Life Compass. All right, so if you imagine the scene is this middle school adolescence world that they're in, pulling away from parents, moving towards each other. And then they experience some sort of conflict. So the question is, when there's conflict, what is your first reaction? I think I also want to say, as parents, when your kids come home on the roller coaster, what is our first reaction? Okay, so here goes. Our gut level response to a situation is our first reaction. Depending on your personality, temperament, and prior life experiences, we all tend to initially gravitate towards one extreme or another. In the face of conflict, our first instinct to rage or retreat. In expressing difficult feelings, do we gravitate toward passive or aggressive communication?
This same external situation will evoke different first reactions in different people. Excitement or fear, hope or dread, joy or disgust. Biologically, we are all equipped with a fight or flight response to stress. Some of us are inclined to use that extra burst of adrenaline to confront a situation, and some of us want to use it to retreat. Here's the good news. These first reactions are not good or bad, right or wrong. They just are. While we may not have control over the emotion that washes over us, we do have the ability to choose what we do next. That is where a compass helps to point the way. It helps us to know what to do when we don't know what to do. In other words, it helps us to choose well. I just wonder if we could sit with this for a moment, and if anyone could put either in the chat, put in the chat, or if you're taking notes or writing down what's standing out to you from what you've read so far. Dorothy writes, like, I fight for my son. So it sounds like connecting to.
Mm-hmm.
I know something that it's nice to hear that neither reaction is good or bad. We choose what we do next. I like the idea of not beating ourselves up over our initial responses. Choosing what we do next is so important. My first reaction is to start telling her what to do. But there's this idea of our first reactions are just our first reactions.
I think that I've noticed for myself that when I see my child's first reaction, I get upset that their reaction is so emotional. Like I'm like, this isn't a big deal. Like I don't know. I like think their first reaction is really important. And so for reading this for me, it is helpful for me to know about my first reaction, but it's also helpful for me to take a step and say like, wow, I'm watching their first reaction. It just is. This is their first reaction.
And I'm thinking about with our middle schoolers when we sometimes try to tell them how they should be reacting, and I think then that can sometimes set them up for failure because reactions are so hard to control. You know, when we're feeling threatened, when we're feeling insecure, our reaction can be so hard to control. So something that's been really helpful for me is, again, thinking about my own first reactions and being liberated by the idea that like, I am not tied to my first reaction. My first reaction, I can recover or I can do what is next after that. But it's also the way that I can guide our students in saying, you know, what you did is what you did. That was, you reacted, but what can we do now? Like, what can you do next? So there doesn't have to be this shame or like, you know what, I already messed up, so that's over for me.
Yeah, and I also recognize, I mean, it's hard on Zoom to know if we're all on the same page or if it's like, again, like, why are we talking about this right now? But I want to hearken it back to Rachel Gordon saying October is maybe the hardest month, or it's hard. Students come in and it's like, it's great, I like this community. And then suddenly they're going to see their grades drop and then go back up and then drop again, because at the beginning of the year, that's how it happens. So whether it's academics or social interaction, this the moment, it's going to be the time of challenge and more reactions. Okay, so how do we bridge the gap between the initial reaction and then a thoughtful response that matches who we are and who we aspire to be? And here's the advice of the article. This is time to reflect, recalibrate, and respond. So before, during, or after a situation, just as was said by our parents in the chat, press pause and see if you can ask yourself some clarifying questions such as, or ask your child some clarifying questions such as, how am I feeling right now and why? What do I know? What do I need to know? Who can help? And then what do I want the outcome of the situation to be? That is difficult because that takes a lot of pause to be able to ask those kinds of questions. How about just for like a check for understanding which one is sitting with you the most here? Can you type in the question, if you can, type in the question that you think is most helpful for you to recalibrate? Which question is the one you want to rely on? Yeah. Okay.
I really like reading each question because I'm just thinking about like the power in each question. Like when you ask that, what it makes you have to reflect on and think about. But yeah, we can go to the next one.
And even the first one, I think our middle school students are not practiced at understanding or naming their first feeling. Like, what is it?
There's no magic formula. We will have moments of success and moments that feel like failures. That's why taking time to reflect, recalibrate, and respond is critical to developing practical wisdom. We are all works in progress. We all have inherent dignity. We grow with experience, facing life's ups and downs with as much grace as we can muster. When we remember who we are and who we are called to be, when we consult an internal compass that is pointing us toward a larger vision, we can navigate challenges, live with integrity, and find the resilience to get back up and take one more step forward. So from this, what is standing out to you? And hopefully it's nice if we also just think about hope, because you're right, it was the first few slides were pretty negative, thinking about some of the things that our middle schoolers might be facing. And then we face them too, because we face them with our middle schoolers. And so what can give us hope as we navigate these challenges? And Melina wrote, live with integrity. Find the resilience to get back up and take one more step forward. Just find the resilience. We will have moments of success and moments that feel like failures. No magic formula, learning from mistakes, gratitude for how far we've come already. Remember who we are meant to be. We are all works in progress. We all have inherent dignity. Find the resilience to get back up together.
This quote is striking me as challenging the need to fix things fast. And when I see my child struggling, that's really hard. I want a solution. I want it now. I don't want them to be sad. I don't want them to struggle. I want it to be fixed. And yet, as educators of middle school in these years, we know if we fix something fast that we just plowed the snow for them. We didn't let them struggle through it. Okay. In order to be the sort of adults in the lives of kids that model, as you said at the beginning, that model, that sit alongside, that help facilitate, that grow, we want to ask ourselves, like, what do you know about yourself that helps you know how to best connect with your child in middle school? So how do we know ourselves so that we can know them? And then that's the life compass from adults. I'm going to go through 2 more slides, and then there's a moment for you to reflect. Again, like a wonderful quote, children go into the intellectual lives of those around them. So I think that our students are so privileged to have the parents that you are, and then a school devoted to them struggling through growth. And IVA is based on the idea that it's not about the content that they learn that will make them successful for the rest of their lives. It's about being challenged to grow in their character. So really, we're a school about character development. And here's just a few points about character development that help ground us, ourselves. One is that developing good character contributes to a flourishing life. When you can get through struggle now, you can get through struggle when you're older also. So challenge and struggle are important moments to be able to notice and adjust. Character development happens at home, at school, and in the community. It's not like it's not happening constantly. So the question is, how can we make it more intentional in all these settings for our kids? And then also for us, a common language helps us identify clear character aims. And as a school, we ask our, I'm going to skip a slide. As a school, we ask our students, how do you want to grow and how you think? And so we have the language of intellectual virtues. And for every student, it's going to be different. Someone's going to want to grow in their curiosity. Someone else is going to want to grow in their courage. And that's right, because that's who they are. So these are the intellectual virtues. This is the language that we all have as common language to help students have a common character aim. But I'm going back, I'll hand this to you, Ms. Gordon, because we want to practice this for ourselves so that we can think through the language of the virtues internally first.
Yeah, and like Ms. Bryant said, this is something we do as teachers and as faculty and as staff at our school, is we think about what intellectual virtue we want to practice or grow in. And so as you aim to apprentice your middle school, what do you want? What is important for you to demonstrate? Like, and also this can mean, and we're going to put the virtue slides back up. What virtue do you feel like you really want to practice or grow in while you're supporting your child? So this could be a place where you feel like, I think this is a place I need to grow. Like I find myself having certain reactions or certain just tendencies, and I think I would benefit from a growth in this virtue. And we do truly believe that that being intentional in our study of the virtues does help develop our character. But I also want to say this will help you better understand what your children are being challenged to do, is to look at these virtues and think about ones they want to grow in. So I'll say it one more time, because then we're going to go to the slide with the virtues. What virtue do you want to practice or grow in while supporting your child?
And I think that we called this night Apprenticing Your Middle Schooler. And we haven't really addressed that. So I just want to say one thing. We are trying to center ourselves as walking alongside students. Instead of doing it for them or telling them how to do it, we sit down next to them and say, what if you did it this way? What do you think about that? But we're the guides. We're still the guides. We're the models in their lives. All of us are. So as Ms. Gordon said, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to add, well, thank you. It is difficult, but I will also say it's really liberating. One of the most liberating things about teaching in this model is that I might be more effective of a teacher and of a leader when I am making mistakes or when I have made a mistake, because of the opportunities I have to practice. I mean, I have found that I am more aware of my virtue practice in my struggle or in my mistakes or in my defeat than in my successes. And so if I'm going to truly model for my students what I think it means to be a good thinker and a good learner, they're going to watch me do things that I wish I didn't do and that I know better, and that I have an opportunity to show them how I have to recalibrate and think about what I can do, or what my next steps are. And I actually find that to be pretty liberating. Not to say that I want to make mistakes all the time, but it is a different way of me being able to view my mistakes.
Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide, and then we'll give you like an actual 60 seconds of silence so that you can think of what virtue that you want to practice or grow in while supporting your child. if you have an idea, you can put it in the chat, or a phrase from the virtue that you feel like is helpful, a helpful frame. Hmm. Hmm. I really appreciate thinking through what you have put in the chat and how those virtues might help in parenting of middle school kids. I also really appreciate that it's different for everyone. So for our students and staff, when we're learning and thinking and struggling together, this language is a common frame for us to direct toward our aims. Hmm. I don't know. It's so hard being distant. I feel like it's so much easier in a room to say like, well, there's some learning here at this point. But knowing that, our time is short together, I would like you to think of like, what's your role in middle school? We posed the exact same question just a short time ago. But that's the question. We want to spend time thinking of the question and seeing more in the question. So one of the ways that you can respond to that is just a word or a phrase of what your role is. An analogy, if you're a creative type, who I like being around, but I'm not as much. Or the frame of, I used to think, now I think. Although it's hard to say that in a few minutes we could get to that. Oh. There's a couple responses that I'll read. Nicole said, thank you for the imagery, Nicole. Nicole said, help transform them from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Do you know the process? They turn into like mush and then they form again. It's a mushy time, but how beautiful. Jan said, my child's personal development champion. Melina said, now I think to not just rush to solve every problem. Kate's peeps, allowing them to take ownership. Dorothy said, I used to be the instructor and now I'm the partner or a partner. And Rachel said, I'm remembering how my own fears often affect how I parent, and I need to be aware of that. Craig said, I think I need to be available for support when they ask me, but not hovering over every facet of their lives. Why don't they need us so much anymore? Veronica said, I'm her cheerleader and her advocate. She is her own agent. Wyatt said, letting him fail and helping him learn from those failures. Laura did the whole thing. I used to think it was my job to have the answers and the way, and now I see it is to allow him to unravel it and be at his side to help if asked. I used to think that children should hold their opinions, but now I think they should be able to express themselves. Help our children realize that one moment of extreme struggle is just that. oh my gosh, how encouraging. One moment. It doesn't define them for the rest of time. I used to think that grades were the most important thing. Now I think the process and understanding is much more important. And Aaron said, be more present when he needs me. Let him know I'm here and practice modeling the pause, verbalizing my own reflection and action process when challenged.
I'm so grateful for this community as a parent and as a teacher, because it really feels like we can do hard things when we know we're not the only ones. So I really hope that some of you feel the same, just knowing like I am not the only one that feels like this is really hard. So just in closing, just some final words. We'd love to hear from you. So either, the sense I'm making of all this content today is, or I want to keep thinking, or I'm wondering about, or I've realized, and this is kind of like our greedy way of getting like some sort of affirmation. If you just want to say something you appreciated about this time or anything you're grateful for, just anything that you could add, some final words in the chat before we close and go back to the world.
Mm. Oh man. Ms. Gordon, do you want to read some of these? Or you're writing. I can tell you're writing. I'm going to start. I said, I realized tonight that reading your thoughts, it helps me continue to develop my own. So thank you so much. Dorothy said, I'm grateful for the opportunity to hear other parents' perspectives. Robin said, I appreciate IVA so much, and I'm grateful that they're so willing to think outside of the box with the education of every single student. Melina said, I'm grateful for a place where my son feels he belongs and is appreciated. He told me the other day, I finally feel like I can be like myself at school. Do you guys remember that slide that was like, you can't be different or you will be picked on or whatever it is? You know what's interesting is kids are really different at IVA and quirky and strange, and it doesn't feel like there's a campus shame happening. It feels like, oh, that person's laying on the ground right now. Cool. Whatever's going on with them, that's okay. We'll check in with them, or whatever it is. Just we're privileged, Miss Gordon and I, to watch them at lunch, and it's wild. I mean, it's sweet and hilarious. It's like comedy. I wish we could make a comedy show out of it. So yeah, they can be themselves. I'm grateful, Christina said, I'm grateful for a chance to be more intentional and thoughtful about how I can be supporting my son. So often we're rushing and doing things haphazardly. Good chance to slow down. Erin said, and then Ms. Gordon, I'll have you read more. Erin said, I appreciate IVA taking this time to connect as parents helping parents. I know that my son is in good hands, and I'm grateful for this opportunity for him to learn and grow.
This meeting has been a great reset to remember to stay calm, and that it is not necessary to try to fix everything, that the struggle is okay and important for development. Mm-hmm. And then Nicole, one of our 8th grade parents, no, I love IVA. I'm freaking out about next year. But you didn't plow the snow.
Yeah, yeah.
They can face the snow. I want to keep thinking about what parents need to feel safe with their students during any struggle at our school. How can we make parents better see our processes?
Yeah.
Jan wrote, I appreciated taking the time to pause and consider importance of what we are doing and of detaching first reactions from the person. I appreciate the time, Veronica said, I appreciate the time and space to share and learn from fellow middle school parents. Thank you, IVA. Laura said, I am grateful for a place where my son feels safe, physically and intellectually and emotionally. I wish I could do middle school here. Jamila said, I appreciate the Zoom class and helping me know that parents may have struggles just as well as a child, but we can come together to build character. And Erin said, I will remind myself not to plow the snow. It's hard. I feel like sometimes we can do it so easily. Like, I'm just gonna plow this.
I mean, we figured it out, right? We're adults, so we know how to plow snow at this point. Thank you all so much for just coming in tonight. So we have another parent academy. I don't know whether it will be online or in person, but it's going to be in 2 weeks on a Thursday night, and it's going to be a lot more practical. So we're getting to the math, and not just the math, but the problem of the weeks, where it's like, why is this question so confusing? And how long am I supposed to watch my kids struggle? So it's a kids can't come because answers might be shared, kind of a POW night, problem of the weeks. And we can't wait till we're in person. Oh my goodness, can I just give a shout out to our PTA who's doing an outdoor Halloween dance? And I must say, the best time I've ever seen parents connect with each other is when they're chaperoning a dance, because it's hilarious. And you're like, this is funny. And then you're laughing next to your fellow peers and you get to know them because we're all wearing name tags. So it's on the 29th. It's a February the 29th. And there'll be opportunities to sign up to chaperone, but I hope I get
February.
Did I say February? What is happening? October 29th, right before the Halloween weekend. And I think the PTA has an email address that might be in the newsletter, but we'll make sure that it is. And we'll put the dance in next week's newsletter for sure too. I hope you all have a good February, and I'm so glad to be in this community with you.
Maybe if we tell ourselves it's February, it won't feel so hard, because October is so not February.
Gosh, why am I saying February?
There's lots of days off. October is long.
Oh.
There's no days off. It's like no routine. Like, anyway.
I'm gonna send us off on a few minutes of a song so we can wave at each other. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for being here.
Bye, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you for coming.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Good night.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And the world's all right with me.
Craig, call the office.
Just one look at you,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
and I know it's gonna
Bye, guys. Bye, Kevin. Good to see you.
It's so good to see everybody. Thank you.
Bye, Rachel Gordon. Have a wonderful night.
Bye, Jackie. Have a good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Bye.